This is One Ogden. I'm John Miles.
So, Johnny Baseball originally was a punk band that I started with a buddy of mine like 10 years ago. And we put some songs out, played some shows. And then fast forward a decade and Phil and I are starting to make some music. And it's, you know, the sound and the feel of the music is a lot more punk than we, I don't know, I guess expected or what we started doing. And so it just made sense to be like, hey, this is Johnny Baseball again, 10 years later, bringing Phil in. Yeah, when we'll both just come together on stuff. I don't play any instruments besides drums and vocals, so songwriting has to start with Phil, and then I hop in and we both take it.
Yeah, I'll probably send Evan like 10 different ideas of like, oh, here's a cool riff, here's some chords that could go with it, and then we'll send notes back and forth. It's all just like quick recording on my phone. Then we'll sit down and we'll say, all right, let's take that, change this to this thing or whatever. So the whole songwriting process we really collaborate on. Once I've sent like an idea, he'll tweak, hey, do this different here, break some parts up and say, this needs a bridge, but change the chords.
So what is it like for you, Evan? Like, you hear a riff and it just gets you thinking on a song and the whole structure and everything. How does that all come together?
Yeah, I think so. Like I need a piece to start. You know what I mean? Like I need something. There's a feel, and I kind of put some vocal melodies to it, some vocal patterns, and we figure out what part of the song does that feel like, or where should the song go from here. Playing drums and singing, it's at least enough for the two of us in order to be able to put the bones of a song together. We can play and I'll jam out the drums and then write to what we have recorded or write to whatever scratch tracks we have.
So you're coming up with melodies, right?
Mm-hmm.
And did you do that in the previous band? Like, have you got experience writing songs like that?
Yeah, all years ago, just like Phil, I played in a few bands, both drumming or doing vocals, and so like songwriting and composing, it's what I like doing. You know what I mean?
That's funny. Like, you never wanted to learn. You were never driven to like more of a songwriter's instrument.
Well, no, I should have like picked up guitar a long time ago, but I just started playing drums, got good enough to play in bands, and then started playing in bands. And from then it was like, I don't want to fucking just put everything on a back seat and go learn how to play an instrument from scratch because I'm too impatient. And so I kick myself for that all the time.
I played bass, and that was like my thing. I played acoustic guitar growing up, but all my other friends played guitar, and they're like, we need a bass player. So I was like, oh, fuck it, I'll play bass, right? And so when Evan came to me and he's like, hey, I need you to play guitar on some stuff for me, like write some guitar parts. I was like, are you sure you don't mean bass? He's like, no, I need a guitar. I was like, all right. So I got back on it. And so this experience for me has been much different than what I've done in the past, especially the writing and how we've come up with stuff. So it's been really fun, like just getting back in, like you said, that nostalgic time. And like you said, this EP, every song, it's cohesive. It all goes together, but each one is a little bit different. Some are a little bit harder. Some are a little bit poppier, but they all feel like they go together. And that's really just been between the two of us, like, hey, this one, let's add this type of, riff to it. Like think about this band or this song when you're writing this next part. Some of it is just kind of spontaneous. Like, I'll just have an idea for a chord. I'm like, I don't even know if this is going to sound good, but I'll make my fingers do this. And like Still Hollow, the first actual song on the EP, was one of those where we were taking pictures one night and it like hit me in the head. And I'm like, I got to go down and just try a chord out real quick. And he came down and was like, we need to record that right now.
On the nostalgia piece, like I grew up on Blink-182, you know what I mean? Sum 41 and bands like that. A lot of that music was just fun, you know what I mean? Like, it's not super self-serious, and not that everything is now, but a lot of it is, and that was kind of a pointed like decision that like I want to have fun playing the music, writing it, you know what I mean? It doesn't mean you can't go into or express or talk about like heavy shit. You know what I mean? It's not like it's all a gag, but just being able to have fun and not being so self-serious probably comes through in the sound because that's what we wanted to do. You know what I mean?
I think another thing too in there is like like if you were to tab out some of the songs, like some of them don't make sense the way that we wrote them, but that was part of like, we want to do things that are simple, but then have these like fun little pieces in them. But really the vocals in all these songs are kind of what carries it through most of it. So it's like, there's been, like I said, other bands in the past where it's really focused on the melody that the piano is doing or something else. But this is more like we're driving with these vocals and these words. And even if the background guitar part is just like straight power chords, you don't notice that as much because there's so much happening that is interesting, that when there's other open areas where maybe there aren't vocals, now the guitar can do something else.
You're a bass player from other bands and you're a drummer from other bands, and so you've been these contributors to songs. Then you're able to fill them in more interesting ways.
Evan has an idea of how he wants certain things to sound, and so that helps influence me. If he's like, hey, the drums are going to be like this, I'm like, okay, so what would a guitar rhythm sound like with that? How can I change that guitar rhythm so that it's not just like a straight power or palm mute power chords? It's somewhat interesting that maybe not everybody will hear. Like musicians that really want to listen to it will hear that, but like a normal person listening to a song on the radio isn't going to listen to some of those intricacies. But that's what makes those songs different and stand out. It's not just straight, just chugging or whatever.
Right.
And then I like a lot of this stuff, like when we went in the studio and recorded it, it was all pretty much done. There's a few things that while we were in there, we were still hashing out some lyrics and some harmonies. But all the guitar parts, all the bass, I hadn't written any bass. I wrote pretty much all the bass in studio, but that was easy for me. But we'll have these ideas. We'll try to do a demo and get it as complete as we can. And then we'll take that into the studio and polish it up, you know?
Well, and like you never had a chance to like jam it out, really even play the songs together before you're in the studio, right?
Not singing, like guitar and drums. We could play some of it, but not with me singing or him being able to play bass. You know what I mean? It's just the two of us.
Well, and I would think with drums particularly, that would be necessary. Like you need to sit and play the songs. And I guess you can kind of do it with the stuff he's recorded, but like actually being able to sit and play has got to be a big part of it, right?
Yeah, and it is, but we were also, like, we would go program MIDI drums for parts that were simple enough that I could do that without sitting down on a kit and writing it. You know what I mean? So being able to do that, probably half and half, you know, like we had to play some parts to get them written and get them down, structured how we wanted, and the others we were able to just lay down a MIDI drum track and go from there.
And that's what's like really cool about this process for me too, is like every other record that I've recorded or been a part of, we recorded everything live. Like every instrument, we had to rehearse for days and days and get it perfect. So when we go in the studio, 4 of us are playing at the same time, and if the drummer fucks something up or I hit a wrong note, we're all recording it all again. Where this process for me has been more like, you know, for the demos at least, especially like, hey, just get it right once, get the idea in there. We're going to do some MIDI drums so that we know where we want to go. We know what we want the drums to kind of sound like, and then we can build off of that. So it's been I think it allowed us to be more creative in a sense where we can just do bits and pieces at a time rather than like have to figure out the whole composition of the song and play it as a full band. We were able to put together this EP, like you said, in 6 months, but really if you compact those days together, it was like 2 weeks. We did a lot in a short period of time when it comes down to it. But I wanted to ask you, because we've never talked about this, like what made you want to start playing music? Like what was that moment in your life that you're like, fuck man, I want to be a drummer, or, you know,
yeah,
I need to be in a band?
So I don't know, when I was young, like I'd listen to music. I would just borrow my dad's CDs and just listen.
Your dad and I listen to the same music.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I would just listen to like
Blink-182.
right, yeah, No Effects, Rancid, no. Yeah. I don't know, so I'd listen to music a bunch, and I'd like, just, that always sounded fun. So when we moved to Utah, I was like, I want to play drums, and shout out my mom, who was like, you need to learn to play piano first, and then we'll buy you whatever instrument you want, and you can play. She doesn't have any musical background, so shout out whoever told her to tell me that. Because it was good because that gave me like at least a basic understanding of keys, you know what I mean, and notes and how to read music that I fucking can't do now, but I did it. No, I knew it.
Yeah,
at some
but just
point.
like hearing notes that go together.
So she made me learn how to play piano for like 3 years, and then I had enough. and I could play piano because that was our agreement. And then I went and played drums, and I straight up like my drum teacher lives in Layton. Actually, his name is James Clark. Dude's fucking awesome, coolest dude. In first day, he's like, so you're trying to go to Juilliard to like study music theory and play drums, or you just want to play in a band? And I was like, I just want to play in a band. Like, give me just the tiny bit that I need, and then teach me how to play drums.
But why drums?
Honestly, from watching like fucking Blink-182 music videos, like Travis Barker's just so cool, dude. Like, guy with the mohawk just going
looked like he was
crazy,
having
flailing
fun.
around.
Yeah.
I mean, he still does. Dude's like 50 and still, he's not 50, but fucking plays hard as shit, plays cool parts, just has fun, and is just a badass. So I love that dude. And I was like, I want to be him. But no, I just want to play drums. And so I played. There's this girl that I knew whose boyfriend was in a band in Syracuse called Skysight, and I listened to it, and I was like, this sounds like Blink-182. I fucking love this shit. And I went to their CD release party, and like I knew all the songs they had up on their fucking MySpace. And so I talked with them and just became friends with them. And then they, when their drummer left, they're like, hey, do you want to play in our band? I said, I'm on it. And so from there, I started a couple bands, played in a couple bands, and then didn't for 10 years, and now here we are.
I mean, growing up, like, we didn't have any instruments in our house. My parents are not musically inclined at all. And, like, I just remember watching Back to the Future and seeing Marty McFly play Johnny B. Good, and I was like, that's fucking cool. I want to learn how to play guitar. And so, like, I played the viola in middle school. And so when me and all my buddies were like, yeah, we should start a band in high school, and we never actually started a band, but we all wanted to play instruments together, and they were getting guitars. I was like, all right, well, I'll play bass because I already know 4 strings from a viola, right? That's the same thing. It's not. But so just kind of fucking around. And when I was 18, I was at a party in their backyard, and their friend's band was there to play. And they were going to play The Middle by Jimmy Eat World, and their bass player just didn't like covering that song when they would play it. So they were like, hey, man, you play bass. You want to play a song with us? And I was like, sure. What song is it? I'll do it. They're like, oh, it's The Middle. I was like, all right, well, let me go grab my bass, and I'll learn it real quick. I'll just download a tab and figured it out in like 5 minutes, because that's how I learned to play music. Like, I'm not classically trained at all. It's like tabs or by ear. Like, that's how you learn to play in the early 2000s, I feel. And they had enough fun with me playing in their backyard that one time that when they had creative differences with their bass player, I was the first person they called up, and they're like, hey, man, you want to play bass with us? And I was the youngest member by 7 years in that band. I just wanted to do it, So, like, for me now and my kids, I'm like, I just want to have all these things. I bought a drum set. I want to have enough guitars that if they want to play guitar, they can do that. I have a piano in case they want to learn how to play piano, they can do that. I want to have everything as accessible to them as possible, because I didn't have those things, and that wasn't like a bad thing. Like, my parents just weren't into that kind of stuff, but I am, so I want to make sure that's available. Like, if my kids want to do that, like, yeah, man, here's a whole room full of instruments. Go play, have fun.
What about the name Johnny Baseball? Where does that come from?
It doesn't work unless we play the video so you can hear it, but like way back, not the early days of YouTube, but like kind of the early days of YouTube, this YouTube channel called Fensler Films made these like shitty dub overs of G.I. Joe PSAs, like the old like 80s cartoons that played. And yeah, there's one that's actually on the EP. This is Johnny, do you play baseball? And so that's where it came from. It's from a fucking YouTube video that came out in like 2008.
It's like the knowing is half the battle things.
Yeah.
But then it's an overdub.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it's like the safety PSAs
Right.
they used to play on like Saturday mornings or whatever.
Yeah, we're talking 2 layers of obscure.
Yeah. Yeah. And so yeah, anyways, I love that shit. That's my sense of humor in a 30-second video. Yeah,
That's how the EP starts.
Yeah. Johnny, do you play baseball?
I guess let's talk about some bands that influenced you.
But I mean, we're like 8 years apart in age, but like Blink-182, like Alistair and Midtown, and those are things that I would say influenced the way that I wrote guitar parts for this, Brand New, like that kind of stuff. And then there's newer things that Evan has introduced me to, like The Story So Far and No Pressure.
Like I was saying earlier, I think there's a sound or maybe like a ethos of 2000s pop punk that is just fun any of the bands that we grew up on. Like, I'm sure there's a lot of influence, you know, conscious or not, in what we do. We're not unashamedly not coming into this trying to blaze a path and make something new. You know what I mean? Like, not that everything is derivative, but like there's a sound, like I said, kind of an ethos that I have in mind that I want to play because I love it and I have fun doing that. You know what I mean?
I just like, I mean, you guys don't come out and like do a bunch of covers and whatever. You were like, I got some songs in my head. Let's write some songs. And so you just put out some songs.
Other bands I was in, I had a great time being in those bands. I love all the parts that I did. Like, great experiences. But some of the music we played wasn't the type of music that I would normally find myself listening to, right? Especially talking about Blink-182 and Brand New and Sum 41 and stuff like that. Like, the bands I was in, we did not play music like that. It was more like Americana, alt country rock kind of stuff sometimes. And so what's fun about this is like I'm playing the kind of music I actually listen to on a daily basis. And so I want to listen to our music, which might be pretentious. It's like wearing your own band t-shirt, you know, but like I just like listening to it, you know, and finding like, oh, how can I make the next one even better, that I want to listen to that one more than these four, you know? We're at a kind of a weird place in that it is just the two of us really right now, where we're kind of doing a format thing where it's like these two guys recorded this EP and now we got to find people that can play it live. But then we also have plenty of ideas for a new set of 6 songs or whatever. Like, we could go record another album right now if we wanted to, but we probably should focus on this release first. We've got to finish getting everything mixed and mastered so we can get that EP out and then get some shows going. But we already have, you know, aspirations and plans. Like, okay, we've got a handful of songs that we have starts to that we still have to sit down and, you know, record some demos and see what direction we want to take them.
I don't know, like, how much of the marketing angle of this have you thought about, and are you interested in doing yourselves?
I mean, it's something that I hate it. It's no fun at all. It's the most frustrating part of trying to get any music heard, but it's necessary, so you have to. But I've got buddies that have been doing this a while and, you know, consistently putting music out and kind of building a following. And so, you know, like, there's pro tips that you pick up to stay consistent and have some sort of an online presence. You know, I think that, you know, we'll try to engage on social as much as we can and, you know, like, look for those opportunities. But I think that we really start any kind of opportunity available to us, I think, is going to come after we've played some shows, you know, and people have come and seen Johnny Baseball play.
The other side too is like the landscape is totally different than it was 15 years ago when I was recording albums with my other bands. You know, we were like, all right, we got to go record this. We're going to do a CD release show back when people bought CDs. You know, I probably still have 100 CDs from old bands just chilling in a closet somewhere. And now it's like, nobody's going to buy a CD. So where do we point those efforts? Well, we're going to do a single and an EP rather than a full-length record, because most people these days, they use Spotify or Apple Music and they're only listening to the one song they like or a handful of songs. So we figure, all right, we'll start this way and then we'll drop a couple singles as we go. You know, hopefully we can try to build some traction. I don't want to say slowly, but I mean, I don't know that we're like in a rush. We just want to make some music, play some shows, and, you know, see where it goes. Stay tuned. Yeah.
Yeah.
EP coming out by the end of the year.
Keep an eye out for Don't Talk About It, Be About It, coming out here in a few months.
Follow us on Instagram, Johnny Baseball Punk.
Is that what it's going to be, the EP?
Yeah, the EP is called Don't Talk About It, Be About It.
All right, nice. Yeah, cool.
Sweet.
JB out.